Breaking news! Today in Far, Far Away, the trial of Jack Jones is underway after being arrested for illegal entry, robbery, and the murder of Arthur Giant last May. On May 16, 2014, Jack started out a normal day by going to the market to sell his cow on behalf of his mother, Nora Jones. Instead of receiving cash for the cow, he instead traded the cow for magic beans. After his mom became furious for his irresponsible trade-off, Jack planted the beans and overnight a beanstalk grew. He then climbed this beanstalk and came across a house in which we now know to be the home of Arthur and Martha Giant. After a year, we finally received a verdict for these charges brought against Jack Jones. Stay tuned for live coverage of this trial. This just in, Jack Jones has just arrived at the courthouse.
Jack!
All rise for the Honorable Judge Warren Simmons.
Today we are here for the trial of Jack versus Far, Far Away. Will the prosecuting attorney please deliver their opening statement?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Blair Casto, and I'm the prosecuting attorney representing the land of Far, Far Away. The charges brought against the defendant, Jack Jones, are fair and represented the actual events that occurred. The charges brought against Jack are murder in the second degree, grand theft of items over $500, and illegal entry into Arthur and Martha Giant's home. We fully intend to prove that Jack Jones is guilty of the charges brought against him today.
Will the defense attorney please present their opening statement?
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, my name is Maddie Lupo and I am the defense attorney representing Jack in this trial. The charges being brought against my client are exaggerated and do not represent the actual events that occurred between the dates May 14th and May 16th, 2014. My client feared for his life knowing the possible dangers that could arise from a giant such as Mr. Arthur Giant. Jack Jones only sought to take care of his mother and protect both of them from any harm. My client is a hero whose main goal was to provide for his own mother, but in the end, saved our land from a vicious, murderous, child-eating giant. It is disappointing to see my client, Mr. Jack Jones, being attacked yet again by these angry, hateful giants. I would also like to point out that the police illegally searched the Jones' home to find the evidence being brought against my client. I hope the ladies and gentlemen of the jury find it in their hearts that Jack Jones is not the malicious boy that the prosecuting attorney has made him out to be.
Prosecutor, would you please call your first witness to the stand?
I call Jack Jones to the stand.
Jack Jones, do you swear to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed.
Jack, will you please walk me through the events of May 14th to May 16th, 2014?
Well, it was a Saturday morning, and I was going to the market to sell our last cow. However, I came across a woman who wanted to trade my cow in exchange for magic beans rather than money. I couldn't pass up the opportunity for magic beans, so I of course agreed to the trade. My mother was mad at me since we didn't have any money, but I planted the seeds anyway out of curiosity. Before I knew it, a huge beanstalk emerged from the ground and grew as high as the clouds. Like anyone else would, I climbed the beanstalk to find out where it led to. I was completely unaware that the beanstalk would lead to the giant's home. When I arrived, Martha was very welcoming and allowed me into her home. However, she hid me from her husband. When her husband came home, due to the fact that they both hate and eat children like me, I hid until the giants went to sleep, and then quickly climbed down the beanstalk back towards my home. I returned to their home 2 more times, the 2 following days of course, and I visited Martha because she was a very kind giant. On the 3rd day, I returned home and decided to cut down the beanstalk. That's pretty much all that happened.
If this is true, how is it possible that each time you left the giant's house, something always went missing? We have evidence proving that you stole money and a goose that lays golden eggs and a magical heart from the giant's house. These items were found in your home by the police of Far, Far Away. According to Taylor versus United States, the land of Far, Far Away is allowed to define burglary in any way that they desire. In this case, we have evidence that Jack Jones has committed burglary.
In Arthur Taylor's 1990 case, the Supreme Court had to deal with defining a federal crime over a sentence extension. The case resulted in a broad definition of felony burglary under 924E.
I object!
On what grounds?
In reference to Weeks versus the U.S., it is unlawful for the defendant or the defendant's property to be searched and seized without a proper warrant.
We are allowed to use this evidence with support of the court case Wolf versus Colorado, in which states that illegally obtained evidence does not have to be excluded from all court cases.
According to Mapp versus Ohio, which overturned Wolf versus Colorado, illegally obtained evidence should be discarded from the case even if the evidence is incriminating. Therefore, these pieces of evidence should not be held against my client during this trial.
This is correct. Unless there was a warrant to search the property, this evidence cannot be used to sway the opinion of the jury. Regardless, the detectives of Far, Far Away came to my court for a warrant. Just because you didn't ask to see the warrant doesn't mean that they didn't have one. The prosecution may resume their line of questioning.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, is it true that Martha Giant let you into their home all 3 visits?
Yes, ma'am.
However, is it also true that Arthur Giant was unaware of the fact that you were in their home during these visits?
This is also true.
I thought so. The precedents of Mapp versus Ohio include the notion that when one of the 2 owners of the same residence does not wish for someone to be on their property, it is illegal for them to be there. Martha may have let Jack into their home, but it is apparent that the victim of murder did not allow humans in his dwelling, making Jack's presence illegal. There are no further questions, Your Honor.
While Mapp versus Ohio established precedents to back the First Amendment, it was also established that an owner of a shared residence has their own ability to deny entry without a warrant.
Does the defense have any questions for the witness?
I do. Jack, tell me what happened after Arthur Giant woke up during your 3rd visit to their home.
After realizing the giant had awoke, I quickly left their house and began to climb down the beanstalk. After I reached the bottom, I decided to cut down the beanstalk.
Were you unaware that Arthur Giant was following you down the beanstalk?
No, I knew that he was behind me, chasing me down the beanstalk. I was scared for my life. I knew he was going to eat me if I was caught. So I quickly cut down the beanstalk in order to protect myself and my lovely mother.
Are you saying this was an act of self-defense?
Yes, ma'am.
According to Brown versus the U.S., if one feels they are in immediate danger, it is his or her right to defend himself, even if that means taking the assailant's life. In Gorka versus U.S., if one believes the next time they encounter the assailant that their life will be in danger, they are allowed to use any means of self-defense. Therefore, because Jack felt that he was in immediate danger, and if he did not cut down the beanstalk, him and his mother would both lose their lives, this was an act of self-defense and therefore unpunishable. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecutor, please call your next witness.
I call Martha Giant to the stand.
Miss Giant, do you swear to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Miss Giant, why did you let Jack Jones into your home?
I wanted to feed him and help him.
Is it true that you knew your husband would not like young humans in your home?
Yes, this is true.
Did you give him permission to take items from your home?
No, I was just trying to be friendly to him. I had no idea that he would steal from us and murder my husband.
All right, I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any questions for the witness?
No, but I would like to add that the Far, Far Away court has a statistical history of siding with non-human citizens in cases such as this. Is it possible that this court has a bias against my client?
Objection!
On what grounds do you object?
After the results of McCleskey versus Camp, a past bias in any courtroom cannot be used to free a defendant for charges, as long as the prosecution still have meaningful evidence.
Does the prosecution have any other witnesses they'd like to call to the stand?
Yes, I would like to call Nora Jones to the stand.
Mrs. Jones, do you swear to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed with questioning.
Miss Jones, is it true that you supplied your son Jack with the axe used to cut down the beanstalk, which in turn led to the murder of Arthur Giant?
Yes, it is.
With support from the court case Edmond versus Florida, since you supplied your son with the weapon used to kill Arthur Giant, you were an accomplice to this crime.
All I knew was that my son was in a panicked state. I gave him the axe without knowledge of any of previous events. I would also like to add that we did not see the giant climbing down the beanstalk when we cut it down.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
In 1982, Edmond versus Florida established that an accomplice to a crime resulting in a murder cannot be given the death penalty, yet can be tried as a felon.
Does the defense have any questions for the witness?
I do. Miss Jones, was the beanstalk planted on your property?
Yes, it was.
Therefore, according to U.S. v. Cosby, because the Giant's home was technically in the airspace of your property, you have rights and ownership of that airspace. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
I would like to add that under the jurisdiction of Far, Far Away, a clause does exist protecting the floating residences, such as the Giant's home. Are there any more witnesses on either side that would like to call anyone to the stand?
No.
No.
Will the prosecuting attorney please provide a closing statement?
Members of the jury, we have found and presented plenty of evidence against Jack to deserve a serious punishment. We also have various Supreme Court precedents serving to strengthen our case. Gregg versus Georgia and Medlin versus Texas both show us that this repeated robbery ending in a murder can allow us to pursue the death penalty against Jack. Although the defense claims no intention to kill Arthur Giant, Winfield versus the United States allows for added sentencing time against the defendant. Because the death was the clear result of a burglary, we hope the jury takes this presented evidence and lets the justice take its course.
In her closing statement, Ms. Casto mentions 3 Supreme Court cases dealing with the killing. Gregg versus Georgia in 1976 established the constitutionality of the death penalty in proper circumstances. Although Medlin versus Texas established much more important international rulings, the legality of the death penalty was also further enforced. Finally, Whitfield versus the United States verified a federal law related to taking hostages, yet also agreed with the decision to extend the sentence of a criminal for a death resulting from his burglary.
Will the defense please present their closing statements?
My client, Jack Jones, is clearly innocent in the fact that the death of Arthur Giant was an act of self-defense. He was going to kill my client, possibly his mother, and other citizens of Far, Far Away. I would like to add that because this case was in the news before the trial had been held and the jury had previous knowledge of the charges brought against my client, Maxwell v. Shepard states that this trial is not fair. Also, according to both Roper v. Simmons and Thompson v. Oklahoma, Jack Jones cannot receive the death penalty due to the fact that he is under the age of 16 and the age of 18. It would therefore be considered cruel and unusual punishment which is frowned upon in Far, Far Away. I ask you today to please see the good young boy that Jack is. He has his whole life ahead of him, and the actions he took were to support and protect the people around him.
It is now the jury's duty to look at the evidence in the case as a whole in order to make a just decision. Come on, Maddie, stop recording.
Members of the jury, we have
cannot stop.
McCluskey.
McCluskey. No.
Oh my god.
McCluskey.
McCluskey.
We're gonna have to reassign roles.
McCluskey.
How do you say that?
Gorko.
Oh, I guess I could have guessed that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm so scared.
Oh, sorry. I was like,
Because, or before I knew it.
This this just... Are we start?
We're filming.